Thanks, Peter, and good afternoon. Selamat sore to those in Canberra. Selamat siang to those in Indonesia. Selamat pagi to those in Europe. Welcome everybody to Depi's final seminar. I'm Peter Konoski. I'm the chair of Depi's panel, along with my fellow panel members, Dayu Resasadamu, Digby Race and Abida Setyawati, joining us from various locations around the globe. We want to congratulate Depi on getting to this point. You can see that her PhD topic is about the journey of timber, and Depi has certainly been on an extended PhD journey that's got us to this point. I think this is something like, forgive my terrible Bahasa, Depi, you know my Bahasa is bad, akhir perjalanan, something like that?
Yes, akhir perjalanan.
Thank you. So that's where we are. Besides the fellow members of the supervisory panel, I want to welcome Depi's family, Andy and Algie. I think Depi's parents might be joining us as well.
Yes,
welcome to them. Great to have you with us. And around the room, many fellow PhD and graduate students who've supported Depi during her studies at ANU, just as I know Depi has supported many of them in her official big sister role in the Journal Club. So I really want to acknowledge the group of students who've been part of that Journal Club over the last few years, many of you who are here, for the support that you provided each other and helped with that journey that Depi's almost at the end of. Why don't I leave it there, other than acknowledging the traditional owners of the country on which we meet, and in this context, particularly acknowledge the traditional owners of customary land in Indonesia, where Depi's done her work. So Depi, congratulasi on being at this point, and we look forward to hearing from you about your PhD.
Thank you, Peter. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning for everyone as well in all over the world. Maybe I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owner of the lands that we live today, and pay my respect to elders in the past, present, and future. While we are now living in the COVID-19 world, somehow it has transformed how we communicate, including today's seminar. So everyone, wherever you are, welcome to my final seminar. The title of my presentation today is Regulating the Journey of Timber, Sustainability and Legality Governance in Indonesian Wood Value Chain. Peter Karnowski is my primary supervisor, and the panel member are also here. So I couldn't, there are Digby, Dayu and Abida from Netherlands. I couldn't thank enough for all of them and then thank you for what have they been done for me. Without their valuable guidance and support, it's impossible that I could reach to this point. Sorry. So in this seminar, I will begin with some background of sustainability and legality governance, why and how it shaped my research question, frameworks, method, and thesis structure. And then I will then present the main finding from my research and its implication for forest governance in Indonesia and in Indonesia and the global context. And also I will share some reflection from my study. So as a background, deforestation and forest degradation continue to impact on forests worldwide. As we can see here, the annual net of forest loss mostly took place in the global south with the red color, particularly in Brazil and in Indonesia. And the annual rate of forest loss was estimated in the past 5 years around 10 million hectares per year, slightly less from the previous 5 years, but that is still substantial. So the last assessment from World Bank, the forest loss and degradation in Indonesia still continue, and it's reported around 50% of the total wood production in Indonesia. The reason of the global forest deforestation and forest degradation are complex, and many of them are transboundary. So one of the reason for the forest degradation and degradation in many countries in the global south are illegal logging and illegal timber trading. In 2013, Chatham House reported that half of the production of illegal timber in the international market sourced from Indonesia. So as in most other cases, the simplification doesn't account for the complexity of illegal logging and illegal timber trading, which result from complexity of interconnected problems and challenge, as what the quotes say here from World Resource Institute. What is sustainable may not always be legal, and what is legal may not always be sustainable. That's why for the past decade, there has been state and non-state governance trying to address the problem of illegal logging and then promoting sustainable forest management. So some of them focus on legality, some of them focus on sustainability, both in international and national level. The early foundation of the state initiative we can see from the ITTO initiative in developing criteria and indicator of sustainable forest management, and also the non-legally binding forest principle as a result from the Earth Summit in 1992. But then the impact of those initiatives is so limited, so then the environmental actor and NGO and civil society initiate non-state governance initiative called forest certification. So the first global scheme was Forest Stewardship Council, established in the 1993, and then following by the PEFC as the international umbrella for the all FSC competitor scheme. So if you buy the products, a wood-based product like tissue or furniture, if you see this label, that means that product use the wood sourced from the sustainably managed forest. The concern of the forest certification is actually to address the problem in the global south, in the tropical timber country. But then the adoption of the forest certification is primarily happening in the global north. And then so the government, the ministerial around the beginning of 2000 had a conference in Bali, meeting in Bali to have a to develop an action, the national action, and then so going back to the state governance to talk about forest law enforcement and governance. So, and then one of the outcome of the Bali flag conference is EU flag the action plan. So and also following up by the development of EU timber regulation in the Europe. That regulation aimed to prohibit the illegal timber enter the EU market. And also another essential thing from the EU flag VPA is the EU tried to develop a voluntary partnership agreement with the timber producing country like Indonesia. So by having the PVA, for example, between the EU and Indonesia, then Indonesia has to develop the timber legality system, has to define the legality system in their country, and to make sure that the wood coming from Indonesia to EU are legal. And this similar timber regulation also emerged in other countries, like Lazy Act in US, or Goho wood in Japan, or even here in Australia, there is Australia Illegal Prohibition Act. So in Indonesia, the Indonesian Timber Legality Verification System, or in Bahasa Indonesia, Sistem Verifikasi Legalitas Kayu, or SVLK, or SVLK in English abbreviation, was introduced in about 2009 to ensure that all wood in Indonesian value chain are sustainably and legally harvested in the forest, and then legally transported, legally processed, and legally traded. So the SVLK is not only ensuring the legality, but also promoting sustainability, particularly for the state production forests, like natural forest concession or tree plantation concession. And the development of SVLK has been in conjunction with the EU FLEGT VVA that I just mentioned before. So they start, the EU and Indonesia start negotiation in about 2007, and then the process become more intensive after the SVLK was firstly enacted in the Ministry of Forestry Regulation at that time in 2009. And then by requiring more political commitment shown by President Jokowi and President the European Commission, and also more technical effort in the operational effort. So Indonesia finally become the first country in the world to successfully getting a FLEGT license in 2016. So that means all wood product exported from Indonesia entering the EU market, it can enter through the Greenland. So, and without passing any due diligence process, because the EU already trusts that SVLK ensure that wood product entering their market, it's not from illegal source. In SVLK, we can see here that this is the novel of architecture involving many stakeholders, but even the government, in this case, the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, still maintain full authority by creating and maintaining the system, also the regulation, but the government also sharing the enforcement of the rules to the third party. So in SVLK, the conformity assessment body is the third party who has to be accredited by National Accreditation Board, and then the conformity assessment body will assess the forest operator, like forest concession or forest or wood processor or exporter, to be comply with legality required, with sustainability for the forest and with legality requirement. And then the conformity assessment body also act as licensing authority, so they issue the fee legal document, the export document, or FLEGT license. So FLEGT license is export document for the wood product sold to the EU market, and then fee legal for other EU or other countries, other destination countries. And then the requirement for that, the operation has to be certified first under SVLK. But there are some exemptions for the small scale actors. So they can use the supplier declaration of conformity instead of being verified under SVLK, because audit is, you need to pay some audit costs, you know, like, and then small scale has some challenge in that. So they can use the supplier declaration of conformity, but however, they cannot directly access the international market using that. So they don't have option. If they want to access international market, they have to be certified first. And SVLK also allows NGO and civil society to conduct independent monitoring to make sure that everything is going as intended. But if they find some violation or some non-compliance, they can report or complain to the conformity assessment body, to National Accreditation Board, or to the government itself. So speaking of about state of knowledge of timber legality, as we can see here on the left side, there is a growing area of research about sustainability and timber legality in Indonesia. There are some scholars found out that SVLK has contributed directly and indirectly to progress of sustainable forest management in Indonesia. But some study also found there are some weakness in the system. For example, there are some challenge faced by small-scale operator, and then somehow the SVLK doesn't address directly the problem of tenurial conflict, lack of recognition of community rights, also lack of market incentive. Because so far our export from Indonesia is actually less from the volume of wood-based product, less than 5%, and also other weakness in terms of limited independent monitoring, and also the fragmented timber tracking system. But however, this study is only few study of how SVLK is being implemented along the Indonesian wood value chain. So therefore, my PhD is trying to investigate how SVLK is being implemented along the value chain, and then to investigate the sustainability and legality governance along the value chain by asking this research question, investigating the structure of the case study wood value chain, identify chain actors and then their roles, and also identified how SVLK is the architecture and implementation. And then where a comparison is possible, also my study is trying to compare the outcome of voluntary certification, like the PFC that I told you before, with the SVLK. And then the third one is trying to identify the level of actor compliance and factor influencing actor compliance, and also the implication of the result for forest governance in Indonesia and in the global context. So my research draws on a number of theoretical framework. So the first one is about experimentalist transnational timber legality regime. This regime has a novel architecture of involving extensive stakeholder, and then also adapting to the very context or local context, and also trying to learn from the local experimentation. And this also along with the concept of smart regulation review by Cunningham and Sinclair from the RegNet scholar ANU, that which emphasize the use of multi-policy instrument rather than single instrument, and also to involve a broad range of actors in the policy implementation. And the body of literature about interaction between public and private governance is also relevant to SVLK. And then the holistic compliance model introduced by Parker and Nielsen will inform how the external and internal factors influencing the actor compliant with SVLK, and also I use the continuum, the concept of continuum between legal and illegal timber to see how the process of the inclusion of illegal timber into legal value chain, which called by Richard as a wood legalization. And I use value chain map or value chain framework as a methodological approach to identify the value chain map and the actor along the value chain. So I draw this diagram to help me to apply this theoretical framework into my PhD research. So in my PhD, I look at 3 different models of 3 wood value chain, of which wood sourced from natural forest in Kalimantan, and then tree plantation in Sumatra, and then smallholder or private forest in East Java. I couldn't expose the identity of the company and location because it's a part of the annual research ethics protocol, because this is a sensitive issue about sustainability and legality. So I will just mention the typical of the concession and the name of the island. And for each case, I spent around 2 months to conduct the value chain mapping, field observation, and then semi-structured interview with the chain actors and stakeholders, and also having informal discussion with some buyers. And this data collection was complemented by and triangulated by the literature review, document analysis, and audit report analysis. So my thesis is presented as a 6 chapter, as outlined in this figure, and can be described into 3 parts. So the first part is introduction, and then the second part is the result from each case study, which has been published in International Forestry Review, in Journal of Cleaner Production, and in Forest Policy and Economic. And the third part is about lesson learned from the 3 wood value chain and the conclusion that can be made from all the results. And the chapter 5 will be submitted to Forest Policy and Economic this week or next week. This week, I hope so. So, and here are some pictures from my PhD fieldwork. So this is from the natural forest-based case study. So I went to the forest. It took me 2 days, 1 day by car, 1 day by river, and I nearly lost my laptop here on the boat because the rapid stream. So I did the investigation starting from the, but I didn't lose my laptop, so don't worry. I still have my laptop here. So I start the investigation starting from the forest, from the harvesting stage, and then the measuring, the recording into the online system, the transporting through the land and river, and through the industry, and I double check whether this wood is the same wood that I checked from the beginning, and then I follow it up to the processing industry and to the become wood-based product, in this case, a plywood, to already exported to Japan in this case. So based on my fieldwork, I developed a value chain map for each case study, but I didn't show it here. So if you want to know more, you can read and see my publication. But here I provide an overall map of case study wood value chain. As Collins and other scholars point out, my research also found a very complex and dynamic value chain. There are interactions between supplier and then between wood processor and they are also exporter and with the consumer. So they're sharing the information that they interact with each other. And in this map, we can see that the green one is from a forest, like state production forest and private forest. And then the dark blue is wood processor, but also supplier in this case study to the large scale wood processor. We can see also there is a market broker with the yellow color. And here, the problem in Indonesia is that the market broker is not regulated yet by the government, and many of them are not registered anywhere. So it's really hard to track their movement. And you can see their arrow is just go to the right and to the left. Yeah, and they just reach anything, the forest, the processor, and the large scale processor and the small scale processor. So under SVLK, the actor that must comply with the sustainability requirement is natural forest and tree plantation, and then the wood harvesting permit comply with legality. But then the farmer, as I said before, they have an exemption. And this one has to be complied. The dark blue hectare and the light blue hectare also has to comply with legality requirement. So the result of the 3 case study that inform the architecture and actor compliance with SVLK are summarized in this figure. This is a complicated figure. I will not explain to you one by one. Don't worry about that. So I want just to draw your attention into that some of element of this architecture working well, like in the green box, but some of them were not working well, and then some of them like were in between in the yellow one. So it is evident that the SVLK still need some improvement if the function, if SVLK is to function as intended. So when we see the compliance of wood value chain, not only one actor, we can see that there are a mix of compliance and non-compliance, or particularly in the natural forest and the plantation. There are some issue about sustainability wood production system. And then in the private or smallholder value chain, actually there are some issue of non-compliance at each stage of the change. And it end to be like no wood product actually were fully SVLK compliant from the smallholder value chain. And all this going to the international market, including to the EU. So this result also confirming the previous study that basically SVLK has fostered the legality compliance in Indonesia, but particularly dominated by the large scale actor, as we see from here, from the natural and the pulp. This is dominated by the large scale actor, and it confirmed other study from Gunningham Sinclair, Overdevers and Zetlin, or Kasher and Van de Ven about that large scale compliant more, participant and has capability to comply with both regulatory or voluntary system. And these are the most problematic of the major shortcoming in SVLK. I put some color here to differentiate that the purple one is to have, so there are like 3 main problem about sustainability and legality standard, about wood traceability system, and auditing and monitoring. In the finding in the purple color is intended for the large scale actor. My research also confirmed the previous study from Mariudi or Wibowo and Gison that the standard of national sustainability less stringent than the voluntary one, the FSC, or the international one, the FSC or PFC. It's just because the assessment using the scoring system. So the scoring, and then half of the verifier are document-based verifier. So the regulation said that if you reach score of 60, then you can be granted the sustainability certificate, while half of the requirement are documents. So it's really easy actually to achieve sustainability certificate in Indonesia, because scoring system made it so. And this is like one of the critique from the study has to be addressed in SVLK if SVLK want to be improved. And also for the large scale case, different from, in contrast with the voluntary certification, forest certification, SVLK still allow the wood inclusion from legal forest conversion, like we call it like the conversion to oil palm, but legal with the legal permit. And then, but FSC doesn't allow to do so. And the other problem is about wood legalization and illegalization in the private smallholder value chain, when there are so many loopholes in the wood traceability system, provide the possibility of inclusion of illegal wood into legal value chain. And that's because of the the national wood online system are unintegrated, and this is can be happen in all cases. The last thing from this slide is about lack of independent monitoring and lack of fitness auditing. It's happened in all cases. This is also would become a major shortcoming or the most problematic element that should be improved in SVLK. So speaking about national wood traceability system, actually one of the core mechanism in SVLK is the wood traceability system, how you can ensure that the wood is legal from the forest through the industry to the processor and then to the exporter. So I draw this diagram to express that the wood traceability system in Indonesia is still fragmented. If we, again, this is a complicated system. I will not also explain one by one, but if you see here in the left side is, so there are subsystem in the green and then brown and blue, monitored by 4 ministries. And in this side, this is the down upstream, like the forest, this system managed and developed by Ministry of Environment and Forestry, and some of them already connected, but some of them are not connected. So it's even in the same ministry. And if we go to the middle part, this is responsibility of Ministry of Industry. There is no existing system here that can record the wood flow in secondary wood processor that is not integrated with the primary wood processor. And also we still have a problem with the domestic market, like wood coming from the farmer, tree growers, are not, there is no online wood system covering wood from farmer tree growers or for imported wood, and also there is no online system exists to monitor the wood flow in the domestic market. But at least we have a positive things from this system, that the export point has a very strong linkage between systems. So there is a collaboration here. We can see from the Ministry of Environment and Forestry when there is an authority to issue the export document, and then Ministry of Trade through their system called INATRADE, and then Ministry of Finance or Custom through the Indonesian National Single Windows. Sorry. This fragmented wood traceability system also echoing the previous study from Nepani et al. That they point out that this fragmented system could confuse chain actor and stakeholder, and also could bring the possibility of inclusion illegal wood into the system, like wood legalization introduced by Richard. And then the next one, the key findings is about factor influencing actor compliance. I adapt this figure from Parker-Nielsen holistic model compliance. We can see here that the external factor has have a short-term and long-term impact on the actor compliance. Obviously, the international demand for sustainable and legal wood are encouraging the exporter to be comply, and then it's encouraging the supplier to be comply with sustainability and legality compliant too. And the development of collective PPA with the EU, and also the long-term international finding that has been supported by multi-stakeholder forestry program, FAO, and other donor funding. And NGO also facilitate the facilitation, contribute in facilitation and providing capacity building for small-scale actor to be compliant. So this is like from the external factor. And then, the last one is about deterrence mechanism. So deterrent mechanism, the regulatory theory also point out that it can be, deterrent mechanism is like a sanction, like heavy fine or go to the jail if you are violate the forestry law. So we have undang-undang 18/2013 or law 18/2013 regulate about law enforcement on forestry violence, like if someone or company conduct illegal logging or violate human rights or involved in forest fire. It's quite heavy actually on the paper, but we still have a problem to implement that law. For example, the company can go to jail for 5 to 15 years, and they can pay fine up to $1 million or about 15 billion rupiah. But while under SVLK, the risk of deterrent mechanism is about suspension or revocation of the certificate. And in this side, we can see the internal factors between large scale and small scale actors. So mostly the large scale actor has a mix of interests, of motive, of economic, social, and normative. So economics is obviously about the access to international market, so they will comply because they need access to international market. And then social is more about like public reputation and also legal license to operate. While small scale actors prefer to be informal in any timber production and trading. And for the large scale actor, this is also relevant as their characteristic involved in timber wood production and trading. And large scale actor also has more capacity and resources than small scale actor. But Parker and Nielsen note that even the large scale actor has more capacity and resources, it may or may not lead to greater compliance. And there were evident in my study that some of large scale actors violate the law, even though they have capacity or resources to comply with the law. So, and we come to the implication of the result for forest governance in Indonesia. So some of the weakness that I have explained to you about in the standard and the wood traceability system, and also in the auditing and monitoring system. So actually that weakness should be addressed in the 2020 revision last year. So last year SVLK regulation was revised. However, most of the change do not materially impact on the issue, like do not really address the problem. So then here the study again suggests a set of proposal to improve the standard, particularly the main action that the Ministry of Environment and Forestry can do is do not make the document-based verifier that I told you before. They're supposed to be a prerequisite of requirement and not contribute to the overall score, because it's a document. It's like a legal license. Everyone, the large company has to have it. So do not count them as a score. So it will impact the sustainability performance. And also so MOF has a Ministry of Environment and Forestry actually has a plan to integrate the wood traceability system. They already realized that there is a loopholes in there, but then the development of this integration has been plodding. So it needs to be strengthened again. And also about the problem in auditing and monitoring should be addressed as well. So by improving the architecture in this slide is about improving architecture and also improving compliance and increasing stakeholder participation would be resulted in smarter regulation of sustainability and legality in Indonesia. And, oops, sorry. This one is to improve the compliance itself. So Gunningham and Sinclair again emphasize that the measure to enforce the compliance is not only coming from the state. So the non-state actor can also contribute to improve the compliance. So that's why this study suggests to strengthen the roles both of state and non-state actor. particularly for the state actor, there is a need to have a stronger collaboration between ministry. As you can see from the previous slide, especially in the wood traceability system, Ministry of Environment and Forestry is not enough. I mean, they have to engage other ministry that involved in that system, like Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Industry, and Ministry of Finance. Yes, they are there, but the role is still dominated by Ministry of Environment and Forestry. While when we're speaking in about downstream stage, Ministry of Industry should be more involved in that cases. And also, we need to the government need to put greater investment in law enforcement. So we do have a very strong sanction, but we still have a very low investment how to enforce that sanction. So hopefully, yeah, in the near future it would be improved. And the harnessing the state non-state actor, this is about the suspension and revocation of the certificate, and also how to provide education, capacity building, and financial support for the small-scale actor, and facilitating them to be connected in the value chain partnership, so they can have an ability to comply with the legality requirement. And in this slide, I'm going to speak about the implication for global forest governance. So the result of my study speak coherently with the situation of the global forest governance. We can see that there are evidence of positive relationship between these two, both between regulatory system and with the voluntary or non-state market-driven governance. There are evidence explicitly, implicitly about their positive interplay, and then, but somehow it's a bit limited prospect to have their synergy into one system, because like on one hand, the voluntary is still like very expensive in the cost, but then this one is more localized, but then still underfunded. So by putting more resources, it would improve the convergence between voluntary certification and SVLK, and also it will improve the joint up transnational timber legality regime. And at the end, the lesson learned from the interaction between SVLK and the voluntary in this case could be also a reminder that there are needs of effort to achieve larger ambition of the government of Indonesia to improve domestic forest governance in Indonesia. There are some limitations of my research, of course, no one is perfect. So the number of case study, of course, limited empirical evidence compared to the massive number of actors involved in the wood production and trading in Indonesia, but that's the best that I can do. And because, especially because of the remoteness of area of natural forest concession, it's not easy to access most of them. And then also about access to the company itself. So when I put my research proposal to get an access, it was many times rejected because it was about asking the legality of timber. And I still remember there was one company say yes, but then the week after they cancel because their company are now in the news involved in illegal logging activity. So it's really about the sensitive case. So you have to be you have to get the trust to the company. So I really thankful in this case to Abida that actually she's the one who connect me with the large scale company, one of the large scale company in Indonesia. And then because of that trust, then I got the access, and then I can proceed with my research fieldwork in the large scale company. And some other technical things about that field observation only can be done in the company manage, and also I only able to compare between FSC and SVLK in natural forest cases. In the private cases, I only able to reach market broker there. It's hard to find market broker in the large scale actor, but maybe because the unit of their operation is really direct supplier and processor. And also I only able to have information, informal discussion with foreign buyer in natural forest cases. And there are plenty area of future research in this topic. As I promised you before that, I will show you the example of the wood product using the legality or sustainability level. So in this up here, ignore the MUI halal. I still confused why tissue did certification, but this is about Indonesian legal wood. So this tissue product is the wood using to make a tissue come from legal source. So it's not coming from illegal source. And the example here, it's combined. You can see the combined with the, yeah, of course, because SVLK is mandatory. And but this product is also comply with voluntary PEFC here. And this one, sutil kayu, for all mothers in Indonesia know it well. It's long wooden spatula. It's coming from FSC. It must be very expensive then. And the sticky dot also use logo from PFC, Sustainable Forest Management. So this one sustainable, this one sustainable and legal, and this one legal. So, and then the area of future research is actually about domestic governance in Indonesia. They are in domestic market, right? Here we can find them in the domestic market in Indonesia. And the next question, how to foster this, good example in our domestic market in Indonesia, and how to accelerate some small scale actor to comply with SVLK, how to make SVLK can address the root problems of corruption or tenurial right or community rights or customary right in the forest. And is it possible? Is it feasible to develop a joint protocol between mandatory and regulatory? So, and then how also to promote and expand SVLK into more global market? So there are plenty area of research. Finally, I come up with some concluding remarks that as a reminder for the scholar working in forest policy and governance, that international and national efforts to promote sustainability and address illegality have continued to evolve. And these efforts are in line with SDG 16, particularly the rule of law, which focusing on how the global attention on legality and then promoting sustainability and how it can also provide justice and inclusiveness and participation. My last statement here is SVLK needs to be adaptive and vary with context. SVLK need to learn from local experimentation. SVLK need to be open to revision in the light of experience. So hopefully my research looking at how SVLK being implemented along the wood value chain and with the previous research can contribute to shape smarter regulation in forest policy governance in Indonesia and also to achieve good forest governance in Indonesia. So that's all my presentation today, and thank you for your attention, and I would be more than happy to discuss anything with you. But before that, please let me acknowledge some institution, community, and people that have significant contribution to my PhD journey. So I would like to acknowledge LPDP as my from Government of Indonesia as my scholarship funding. I'm so proud of having LPDP scholarship. That means that government, that we as Indonesian or Indonesian country is going step ahead other than other country that hasn't provide scholarship for their younger generation. Even though I'm not younger anymore, but yeah. Other than that, and then I also thank to the company and all chain actor participation that allow me to do this research, allow me to asking about anything, because it's really about a sensitive question about legality and illegality. And also thanks to Fenner School and all staff and ANU to provide so significant and education environment, and it's also just like a family environment as well here, help and support each other. And of course, the next acknowledgement goes, I would like to thank you to my primary supervisor, Peter Kanowski, with his pensive research here and holding the special present from us, Journal Club, made by Soy, one of our sister. So I don't know, I mean, I couldn't really, I don't know how to thank him. Honestly, because he just provide me endless support until now, and maybe until in the future. I don't think he will stop support me, and he gave me he has been giving me an extensive academic guidance. Also remind me to have a balance between academic life and family life. And last night, a dear friend just said that he has a good heart, and I couldn't agree more with that. Yes, indeed, Peter has a good heart. So, and thank you also to Depi, one of the panel members who introduced me to Peter. We met in Bogor, and Depi is so passionate in supervising and then updating everything happening in Indonesia about timber legality and small scale actors. And I still remember Depi came to my midterm review, drove for 8 hours in a day. And I believe he will do the same if there is no COVID among us. So thank you, Depi. And I would like to thank you to Budayu and Mbak Abida for always supporting me in any way. I really enjoy very much time we had, especially when we had lunch and then talk about research, and we are proud as Indonesian female scholars at the ANU. Also, I want to extend my thank you to Lisa, Peter's wife. Without her, Lisa, it's not possible. So thank you also, Lisa, for your incredible support to Peter, so then Peter can support us. Of course, the Journal Club, as Peter said, we have a very strong peer support, and it's like a family. They are like my brother and sister. We had it firstly in 2018 when University House still open, and then changing from generation to generation, and this is the bottom up is the latest one. I believe they are here all now. So thank you so much for big brother and other sister and brother, and I'm the big sister. So so thank you so much. And of course, Fenner friends, starting from room 106 when I still in the forestry room, in the Robertson building, and also Indonesian community at Fenner before COVID. It was a lot of them. I mean, not a lot, quite a few of them here. But since COVID, it's a bit hard to find Indonesian student here. And of course, everyone agree that family is the place you always go back for anything you're looking for. So I thank you to my parents who are here now. This is blessed in disguise from COVID, so my parents can be here now. So thank you so much. And then to my mom-in-law, and then my late father-in-law. And I also I also dedicate my work to my late grandpa, grandma. I promised them, I still remember when I was a child, I will become a professor someday, I said to them. So I think hopefully I'm getting there. So I'm trying to fulfill that promise. And the only grandma that I have now always asking, why you took so long to finish PhD? So don't worry, Peter, you're not the only one asking why you took so long. My grandma was also asking the same question. And of course, my brothers who are taking care of my family while I'm here. I'm also grateful here. We Algis foster grandpa and grandma are here now with us. So thank you, Professor Sambas, for coming. And thank you, Eyang Rahmi, Abah Bun, and Oma dan Opa for coming as well and visiting us here in Canberra. And being far from home is not easy. Really, it's not easy. So it's really important to have extended family when you are far from home. So I would like thank you to my Indonesian extended family. I couldn't mention them one by one, but at least I would like thank you to Mbak Nani and Mas Mudin family, Mas Wowo, Mbak Lola family, and then Mbak Dika Ompai family, Mas Cahyo, Mbak Titi family, Mbak Andin, Mas Adi family, Mbak Eni and Mas Katiman family, and the last one, Datan family. So lastly, without my husband and my son, I'm nothing. So thank you everyone. Terima kasih, hatur nuhun, matur suwun. My journey is not over yet, but it's getting there. So I hand over to you again, Peter. Thank you.
Thanks, Depi. I'm applauding, and I'm sure everybody else around the room is applauding. I can see some applauding comments in the chat. Thanks for that very comprehensive overview of your PhD. And Depi's very good at judging time. So we've got 1 minute to the hour, just as she's going to submit her thesis on next Friday, so that she can start her new postdoc at RegNet on Monday, although Monday's an ANU holiday, Depi, so you get a soft start. Kate Henney, the director, Professor Kate Henney, the director of RegNet's here, so it's great that Depi's got that next step in the academic journey that she talked about on the way to being the professor that her grandmother is looking forward to. We're up against the hour, but we have time to stay on. So if you'd like to stay on and ask some questions or make some comments, please feel free to do so. I think we'll wrap up in about 15 minutes at the most. In terms of how to ask questions, the main mechanism is through the Q&A function. If you would like to ask a question in person, which is indeed an Indonesian way to do things, you need to type into the chat, ask a question, and Pete, who's managing the seminar, thanks Pete, will unmute you so that you can do that. Or you can just type a question into the chat, into the Q&A, sorry, not the chat, Q&A is the best way of doing that. So thanks for all those congratulatory comments that are coming in. I'm not sure if you can see them, Depi, but there are a lot of them. Would anybody like to ask a question or make a comment? Just say so in the Q&A and Pete will unmute you, or type your question into the Q&A. Or we can have 15 minutes of congratulations.
I think
Abida is joining us from the Netherlands after her time at RegNet. Abida, your hand is up. I think you can speak, Abida, if you just unmute.
Sorry, I was actually accidentally raised my hand, but it's okay. I just need to, if no one is asking, I can ask some questions or comments.
Please do. It's nice to hear from you. Hi.
Hi, Depi. Congratulations for getting toward the end of your journey. It's a very complex journey, and I think you make a really interesting result and also some publications. I just want to convey how excited I am with the end of your journey and also the future you have. And I have 3 questions, maybe comments that might help you to shape the last part, especially on the. I know that you will submit your paper, but maybe on the lesson learned and the conclusion, because I recently joined the evaluation for global FAO program, and I've talked to many people, especially in the European Union part, who are become like the basically the mastermind behind the trade agreement between Indonesia and the EU. And one of the things that emerging is that the potential change of the EU timber regulation, because they will EU actually considering to change the regulation to not focusing on the legality per se, but focus on the broader aspect of sustainability. This is something that is actually quite aligned with your third paper, I think. And I was wondering, like, maybe you can tell us a little bit about how the Indonesian government actually reflect on, based on your thesis, reflect on these two dimensions of legality and sustainability. And because this is something that will also reflect on how the Indonesian potentially could be adaptable enough to actually overcome or anticipate any regulation that might impose on the accessibility of any product coming from Indonesia to, especially to the European Union. And the second one is about the credibility of the system of timber legality itself. There are many questions, especially because Indonesia this is coming from, like, the timber legality system is actually a national system that initially catered toward European market, right? But eventually this is something that is imposed to all of the timber that will be exported by Indonesian government. And I was wondering if you have some of the conversation, especially with your respondent, on how other countries especially perceive the credibility of the timber legality, because if they perceive the credibility is good, it means that there is a potential that this system established by Indonesia could also create more easy access to market beyond European Union. And the third one is
hang on, Avita, hang on.
Yeah.
Hi, I think can we just pause for two for the moment?
Yes, good.
You're beginning to sound like an examiner, not a supervisor, but they're very helpful questions.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so there's two questions is actually just for making a reflection. Sorry, I'll stop there. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Avita. Depi?
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Babida, for the comment and also question. Yeah, and thanks also for the information. I also received the same information about the plan of EU to expand the coverage of the EU timber regulation into more talking about also biodiversity, sustainability, and also to address zero deforestation commodity product like such as palm oil product. So yeah, of course, Indonesia can reflect so many things from the result of my research. At least while that uncertainty of the EU plan to change something still not certain, like still going on, at least Indonesia can improve some element of SVLK that's feasible to do that. I mean, the suggestion from my study is really some of them is really feasible to do that. So that's for the first one. And the second one, yes, when I talk to especially to the official in Jakarta, in national government, they actually already has been promoting SVLK to other countries. So the start point of doing that is by having specific guidelines. For example, in here between Indonesia and Australia, there is a specific guideline how to recognize the SVLK as the legal wood product entering Australia market, even though Australia and Indonesia doesn't have a similar PPA like EU and Indonesia. So when you see that document, it is said that every importer here in Australia should check whether the wood product has the fee legal or not. So I mean, so I believe the government is going toward the good direction. They just need to improve more and more. Yeah, thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Depi, and thanks, Abida, as well for your role as a supporting member of the Indonesian Women Scholars Lunch Club that Depi alluded to, along with Dayu. And our next question's from Rini, who I think would be a member of that group as well, had she been here. Rini, hi, good to have you here.
Hi, sorry, cannot turn on my video. I'm with my son here. So congratulations, Depi. That's a really great achievement. And my question is actually, as a person who is not an expert on flag tea. So last year, I remember reading a news article about Indonesian government setting aside its commitment to flag tea as part of their strategy for economic recovery after COVID. Could you please elaborate on that? What's that mean for flag tea now in Indonesia? And is there any progress on that situation in Indonesia? And what's the civil society sector that has been working hard on this, commenting on that? Thank you.
Thank you. I can hear Calvin too. Thanks, Barini. Yes, Barini, thanks for the question. So this last year that was not happen for the first time. So it's SVLK relaxation policy. So it was also happened in 2015 when some association of small scale furniture in Indonesia having difficulty to comply with SVLK because of they have to be, you know, comply with the formal license, like formal operational to have a valid license, an environmental management license, and they have to pay the auditor auditing costs. Previously, they can just export their wood product, right? But then after SVLK, they have to face such challenge. So they together with under association called HIMKI, they advocate their voice to Ministry of Trade and then to President. Yeah, it was being relaxed, but only for the small scale actor. So at the time, the small scale actor can use the export declaration, but then there was a concern from the negotiation between the EU and Indonesia. If Indonesia opened that small hole, it could become wider hole for the illegal logging because there is no system monitoring this wood flow. So, and then the SVLK reinforced again in 2016, and then that's why then SVLK finally getting the flag tea license, and it's happened last year with the similar problem actually. I mean, similar issue, similar actor, similar association, and similar tension between Ministry of Environment and Forestry and Ministry of Trade. So I think they just need to sit on the same table, and then speaking of about what are the problems, how we can address. And then if they do that, I believe it can be addressed without have to set aside the commitment with the EU. Because this initiative is very good. I mean, it has improved some of element of sustainability and legality. It just needs an improvement. So we don't have to set aside the commitment, and just to put more support, financial, human resource to the small scale one. Even though it's a harder job, I know, but that's the role of the government, right? To help small scale. Thanks, Barry.
You're sounding like Barnaby Joyce there, Depi. So I have a question from Dayu, one of the supervisory panel, and then there's a question from Digby, another of your supervisors in the Q&A. We'll come to that after Dayu. Dr. Dayu.
Yes. Hello, Depi, everyone. Depi, congratulations, huge congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done. It's really, really exciting to see that you reached this stage. So it's really, really good. I have two comments, short ones, Peter. The first one is on one of the slides, you said that the large actor has more capacity to comply. Yeah. Well, while that is probably true, maybe we could also think on the other side where actually large actors have the capacity to not comply as well. That's just a comment, just for you to think about the more broader issues. You know, they have the capacity to comply if they want to comply, but they also have the capacity to not comply, more power, and so on and so on. The second one is related to one of the slides where I think you recommended more investment in law enforcement. Now, my question is basically the practicalities of that, where how in the sense, the question is, how can law enforcement be improved in actually areas where these are private rights, right? The company, these are encumbered rights. So law enforcement mostly have to be done within these concessions or these areas, the areas of the timber companies. So just to think of the practicalities of improved enforcement. Yeah, so just those two short comments, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Budayu. Yeah, the first one, yeah, Ibu, agree with you. I also mentioned about Parker and Nielsen theory about this, that they said that even the large actors scale has more capacity. It may or may not lead to greater compliance. So, and indeed, there was evidence in my study that large scale compliant who has more capacity conduct non-compliant. So I couldn't agree more with that. So Ibu well not, and I already included in some of my paper. The second one, how, yeah, this is, I think, yeah, this question is not really, yeah, it's a hard question and not simply to, not really, you know, I mean, my study is not really about law enforcement case, but then what from my experience, how the practicality to enforce the law enforcement. I guess the collaboration between, so we have GAKUM now in Ministry of Environment and Forestry, like DG of law enforcement. I guess if the Ministry of Environment Forestry put more investment on that, new body of law enforcement, because now currently their resources, their financial and human resources are still limited compared to the coverage of forest that they have to be monitored. Yeah, I think they have to be more stronger intra-ministry coordination in the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, also stronger coordination with the police. Because this is law enforcement involved some actor, and actually we already have a multi-door strategy to enforce the law enforcement in forestry. Yeah, but somehow we just need to do that. I mean, the governance is already there, the structure is already there. The government just need to push more and improve more, and yeah, I think maybe that's if I address your question well for the second one. So
thanks, Depi. Plenty of scope for thinking about that some more over the next week prior to submission. There's a question from Digby in the Q&A. I'll just read that out. And for those who don't know Digby, he's the handsome chap in the near the top left of Depi's slide, the check shirt. So Digby saying, congratulations, Depi. One question, are there other timber schemes in other countries that could inform improvements to SVLK in Indonesia?
Yes, Digby, there are some, I mean, even though in the world only Indonesia who has a FLEGT license, but there are actually some learning, for example, from Ghana, Timber Legality Assurance System, in terms of improving the timber wood traceability system and also the independent monitoring system. So they allow the NGO to be there when audit happen. So while in Indonesia, the independent monitoring can only monitor from outside the house, cannot come into inside the house, and Ghana allow them to come inside the house. I think that's a good example. But then their role is just an observer, you know, like they don't have any right to judge or to influence the audit the auditor decision, but in that way, it's at the same time it's giving access and more access and more information to the independent monitoring network. In terms of wood traceability system, there are some lessons as well. Again, from Ghana, they emphasize the checking in the critical point. Like critical point of illegal logging, while in Indonesia we still lost of it, because actually the critical point is in industry, the secondary wood processor, while the role of Ministry of Industry has not optimal yet in the system.
Thanks, Depi, and Digby, thank you too for the very important role you played, along with Abida and Dio, in supporting Depi's work and helping get it initiated. Connecting to your own important work in Indonesia. I think we've got time for one more question, and we'll give that question to Big Brother Alex, who gave his final seminar not so long ago. Alex has messaged Depi, "Dear Depi, congratulations, that it's been a privilege to travel with you parts of this process. I have a question that may help future scholars following in your steps." And it's a very typical Alex question, I might say. Depi, so listen hard. In hindsight, what would you have done differently to answer a question that you feel was missing from your research?
Ooh, yeah, that's a really typical question of big brothers. But thank you, Alex. Yeah, it was a privilege also for me to go along with you. What I would have done differently, I mean, if I have resources, I will do the collaboration with NGO or other institution to conduct the research, because actually this research is extensive, need extensive observation. From the harvesting stage into the exporting stage, you know, my observation maybe is just only seeing the iceberg, you know, like on the top of. Could be more than that, but then it would need more brand, more funding. So it was my independent project research. So yeah, maybe that's one, Peter. But if I have ability to collaborate with other institutions, yeah, I would do that.
Okay, well, as we were just acknowledging, Depi, you're going on to a postdoc where you're going to build on the body of knowledge and insight that you've developed in your PhD, and think about some similar issues in the oil palm sector, which is now an even bigger sector impacting on livelihoods and the environment in Indonesia. And so I guess that there are some opportunities to reflect on the learning from this inquiry into that next stage. And I think everybody in the room would join me in wishing you lots of success in that work, which will also, I think, be very helpful for the government and people of Indonesia in trying to move that industry to one that's more sustainable, just as we hope, and as a number of people have said in the chat, that we hope that the work you've done will find sympathetic, interested ears amongst key actors in Indonesia. And indeed, that was one of the plans pre-COVID, was that you would go and talk to people there in person about your results, and maybe now you have to do that in this format. We have many Indonesian former students and current students and friends and family on the call, and I know that it would be possible for you to continue to chat for hours, but I think we'll wrap up the formal presentation here. Depi has 8 days to get her thesis finished, and she talked about that work-life balance. So I'm just making my little observation here that it's time to finish the seminar and wrap up the writing. Depi, let me just echo all of those comments in the chat. And you know, it's not just your presence as a scholar in terms of the academic work you've been doing, but your presence as a member of the community, the great contributions you made to the FENA and ANU communities. And it's great that you're going to be able to, we're very happy that you're going to continue to do that in your new ANU role. So thank you for all of that. Congratulations from us all. And everybody will look forward to reading a copy of your thesis when you send it to them.
Yes, thank you, Peter.
Okay, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Thanks, everyone.
And good evening, Salamat, everything from Canberra.
Yes. Bye-bye.